You know that week before your period where the cravings come into play, you can't think straight because of the brain fog, you get irritable, you get tired, you just feel like everything gets derailed, especially if you're on a fat loss journey. Well, in today's episode, I'm going to give you the ultimate PMS survival guide, especially for those of you who are striving to lose body fat at this point in time, because it really can derail you on a monthly basis if you don't know how to make these physical symptoms less intense. And there are certain tips and tricks that we can apply. And if you listen to the end of this episode, I'm going to tell you exactly where you can get your hands on my guide so that you can survive the PMS stage and make sure that you succeed with fat loss. One of the first questions that a lot of ladies who we work with ask is it all in my head? Like, do I just not have enough willpower, or is this physical? And I can promise you it is very much so physical. In your luteal phase, which is the stage in the lead up to your period where your hormone progesterone starts to rise, it's calming but also sedating. And then estrogen begins to decline. It means that you can start to feel symptoms such as tiredness, irritability. As estrogen declines, so does serotonin. You become more sensitive to cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And all of this can lead to you feeling more hungry, experiencing cravings. You actually become a little bit more insulin resistant during this time. And that is the reason why you might find yourself craving certain foods, which are highly palatable, higher in sugars, higher in fats. Not to mention, you will also have a slight elevation in your body temperature. And that actually changes your metabolism slightly so that technically you are actually burning more calories, which has also been spoken in the research to contribute a little bit more to that increase in hunger. But ultimately, it is very physical. What you're experiencing is 70 to 80% physical. However, we cannot neglect the fact that there is also a huge element of your mindset and your thinking around this stage. A lot of women will notice these patterns that they begin to feel a little bit worse for wear, and then they use it as an excuse. Oh, I'm on my period, so insert excuse here. And that is something that we can't allow to happen. So we also need to make sure that we're not giving into excuses and we're actually understanding your physiology, we're understanding the biology of why your body's feeling a certain way, but then you're taking responsibility for the circumstances and saying, although I cannot control the physical changes happening during this time, I can control how I respond to them. I can control how I respond to these feelings. So that's very, very, very important for you to get clear in your mind that it is not just a case of trying to limit how intense your cravings are or to try and find energy through other means when you're in your luteal phase, but actually a lot of the work comes down to your mindset and your perception of how you're treating yourself and how you're behaving during this phase. So if you've ever said anything like, oh, I did XYZ because I'm on my period, that is going to finish today, because those excuses are quite honestly what will be holding you back from succeeding in your fat loss journey. So just from a scientific perspective, you probably need to understand your luteal phase in a little more depth. And some of you might already know this, but it's a good refresher, so listen closely. Your luteal phase happens after ovulation. So this tends to be day 15 to day 28 of your cycle, just before your period begins. And some of the symptoms which you will experience are cravings, especially sugary foods, carbs, salty foods, irritability, anxiety, mood swings, fatigue, low motivation, trouble sleeping. That can be associated with the fact that you've had the elevated body temperature. Bloating, water retention, sore breasts, headaches. And this is all down to the fact of how our hormones are changing. As I said, progesterone rises, estrogen declines, serotonin declines, insulin resistance increases, and you just have a lot more cortisol sensitivity and a lot more inflammation in the body. It's your body's natural rhythm. We don't get to pick and choose what happens naturally within our body, but we do get to pick and choose how we respond to it. But now that you understand that, the physiological basis of what's happening, you will understand why PMS cravings happen. So as you become less insulin sensitive, sugar is cleared from your blood less efficiently. Okay. And that means that you have faster dips in energy, which can lead to cravings. So when you have a faster dip in energy, you're going to begin craving more calorie-dense foods. This is why you're not craving salmon and kale when you're in your luteal phase, but rather it's going to be things along the lines of chocolate, which are rich in sugar and rich in fat. So it's very much so a sign during this phase that more than ever, you need to begin to prioritize really good quality nutrients going in to every single meal, and every single meal being balanced with a good portion of protein, a good portion of healthy fats, and then also good quality carbohydrates. But what does this look like in practice? It's all very good me saying, oh, just have a balanced plate. But what happens when you're like, I need chocolate and I want it and I need it now? We've got to play the psychology of what we're going through a little bit, as well as our physiological needs, and marry them together. So something that I like to advise our clients to do is to understand what their Achilles heel is. My Achilles heel, just like many of you, is the chocolate. It is the chocolate. And fun fact, dark chocolate has actually been proven to boost dopamine and to make you feel happier. And it actually can have quite good impact on benefiting your sleep if you have a little bit of dark chocolate before going to sleep. However, we need to make sure that we're not neglecting what is going to help our blood sugar levels stay stable and help our energy levels stay stable in a time where higher insulin resistance or increased insulin resistance is going to lead to sharper declines in energy. Practically, how are you eating? You need to be eating like this all the time. There is no different way that you should be eating in your luteal phase versus in your follicular phase. I am of the strong opinion that you should be eating in this way, which I'll describe all of the time, which is every 3 to 4 hours, you are having a balanced meal that has a very good quality, complete serving of protein, 30 grams as a minimum, that you're also having a variety of fruits and veggies, 2 or 3 different types of fruits and veggies on that plate, that you're having a carbohydrate source, typically, or I'd say a good majority of the time, which is going to be a low glycemic index. So that means that it takes a longer time for it to digest and to release and break down those sugars. So we're talking about things like whole grains, we're talking things like potatoes. Those are going to be really good because they slowly release energy. And then we also want some healthy fats, but we want moderate healthy fats. And this doesn't necessarily have to be for each and every meal. Let's say if you're going to eat something really small and quick 30 minutes before you work out, maybe we don't need tons of fiber and we don't need tons of healthy fats because that will slow down the digestion. And actually, if we're having a small meal pre-workout, we want it to digest quickly. So we'll have something with higher glycemic index, and also still making sure that you're getting a good serving of protein. But my point is, unless it's pre or post-workout or pre or post-exercise, you want to make sure that the majority of your meals are equally spaced throughout the day, plenty of different types of fruits and veggies so that you get a nice balance and blend of soluble and insoluble fiber, and that you have the appropriate amount of protein so that you're consistently spiking muscle protein synthesis throughout the day and ensuring that your energy levels are remaining stable. When your body is approaching your menstrual cycle beginning, you are going to be experiencing inflammation. You're obviously going to be experiencing blood loss. There's going to be cell regeneration. Your body needs protein as the building blocks to ensure that you are operating in the most optimal way during this time. So do not neglect consistently eating in this way. That means no skipping breakfast. That means not fasting, particularly within the luteal phase. If you're already prone to feeling hungry during this time, do you think that skipping breakfast is going to be the right thing to do? Of course not. Because actually for women, when we fast, our stress hormone cortisol is going to spike even more in the mornings, which actually can have an adverse effect during our luteal phase where we're more sensitive to cortisol. What does cortisol do? It causes fat storage around the organs, around the belly, and it causes muscle breakdown. Literally not what we want at all. It makes us feel awful. So wake up and have a breakfast that's full of healthy fats, good carbohydrates, good protein. And then 3 to 4 hours later, have another balanced meal. Then have a good quality snack, and then another meal in the evening, allowing 2 or 3 hours for that meal to digest before you go to sleep. So how do you layer in the psychology of, I really fancy having a certain type of food, or I'm really thinking about a certain type of food? Find what foods you enjoy. Some women, it will be really salty things, like maybe certain chips, crackers. It might be pizza, whatever the hell it is. You know what you enjoy. So you can either replace one of your meals as that type of food which you enjoy, but do it in a way which is more wholesome, more nutritious. Let's say you love pizza, and during your luteal phase, during that PMS period, like you're really happy to eat a lot of pizza. Okay, how can we make this work so that it's in a way that is going to hit all the other factors which we spoke about? That might mean that rather than having a whole pizza, you have half your plate is pizza, half your plate is some type of salad or something that is rich in veggies. You also might wish to cook your own pizza, so that you choose a whole grain type of flour, that you make sure there's plenty of lean protein on that pizza. And actually cooking it yourself, putting a bit more love and TLC into those ingredients can mean that it still tastes amazing, but also you're saving yourself a lot of calories, a lot of grease, a lot of oil, which will cause inflammation in the body on top of you already having inflammation when you're going through your luteal phase. So start cooking and preparing some of your own meals. Do the fakeaways, as I like to call them, instead of ordering takeaway. However, if you're a woman after my own heart and you like sweets and chocolate, then what you need to ensure that you do is you eat a nutritious meal, very much so full of fiber, good quality nutrients. And then after that is where you allow yourself to have the chocolate, the sweets, because restriction is only going to cause that food focus to build up significantly. And you'll find yourself eventually just binging and gorging on all of those foods, and you'll feel awful afterwards. Because these foods which are rich in fats and rich in sugar, they again will cause spikes in your blood sugar levels, even worse during your luteal phase when you're already a little bit more insulin resistant. But then that crash means that the energy levels which you'll experience dropping is really intense, and then you'll crave more of those foods because your energy levels are lower. So it's this vicious cycle which you get trapped in. But that crash won't happen if before you've indulged in some sweets, some chocolate, you have had a protective layer which comes from a very good balanced meal which is high in protein. So ensure that after you've had a nutritious meal, that's when you can have some ice cream afterwards, some chocolate afterwards, whatever it might be that you enjoy. Be intentional about giving yourself permission to have what you want in a mindful quantity after you've ensured that your body on a physiological level gets its nutrient requirements. I just wanted to take a quick moment to interrupt this podcast episode to tell you how we transform every single woman that comes on board and works with us at Team CBM to wake up energized, confident, healthy, and in complete control of their schedule, nutrition, and exercise. And it begins with a very simple discovery call. It's just a strategy call where we get to understand your goals, your struggles, your life that much better, so we know exactly what you need to do, the roadmap to get to where you want to be as efficiently as possible and in a way that's incredibly sustainable, and it means that your results will last forever. Once you begin the process, you will have everything delivered through our custom coaching app, and your tailored, personalized nutrition plans and exercise plans are created to your preferences. Whether that's home training or gym training, perhaps your nutrition could be a flexible meal plan, or it's portion guides or calories and macro targets, but we design and create that together so that it works for you. Beyond that, you will have daily communication with us if you need it, and you will have a weekly video check-in response from your coach discussing any changes and amendments to be made for the following week. We will always review your progress monthly on a monthly progress review call, and it means that your progress and your transformation is fail-proof. It is guaranteed. Beyond coaching, we provide an extensive educational platform where we include webinars, resources, guides, recipe books. Think about the value that you get in this podcast times 100, including our community of incredible women who support each other through every high and low that you could possibly imagine. So if you're interested in finding out more about joining the world's most trusted and comprehensive online coaching company for women, then all you need to do is click in the description box below to book your complimentary discovery call. And we would love to chat more with you about your goals and to get you feeling the happiest and most confident that you will ever feel. Back to the episode. You might also be wondering, are there certain types of foods which I need to eat during that phase? Because there's some health influencers online and nutritionists that very much give you like a map of exactly what to eat during every single week of your menstrual cycle. And that, in my honest opinion, can be very overwhelming. You don't need to eat completely different ingredients in every single phase or every single week of your menstrual cycle. You also don't need to train a different way in every single week of your menstrual cycle. It doesn't have to be a huge chore and very complex. There's just an important understanding for what certain food groups provide you with and knowing that these are quite beneficial for your hormonal health. So just to name a few, we want to eat magnesium-rich foods, spinach, pumpkin seeds, bananas, dark chocolate. And actually, magnesium can really help with the cramps. It can help with sleep. It can help with mood regulation. So good magnesium-rich foods are great to incorporate all of the time, not just in your luteal phase. And then also your omega-3s, if you're not already supplementing with an omega-3 fatty acid supplement, I would highly recommend because it does help with anti-inflammatory effects. And on top of that, it's really good for your hormonal health. So we've got salmon, walnuts, flax seeds, chia, supports brain and mood. Iron-rich foods, to those of you who do eat meat, lots of red meat. To those of you who don't eat meat, lots of tofu and lentils. Pumpkin seeds, again, rich in iron. Pumpkin seeds are great, good crunch. Put them on your oats. You are winning. Really good source of healthy fats and other nutrients. And it can certainly help to eat lots more hydrating foods. This might be watermelon, cucumber, celery. Just if you're someone who does not hydrate enough, but I would really advise making sure that you're always, every single day, again, getting somewhere between 2 to 4 liters of fluid per day with electrolyte supplements. These rules don't just apply during your luteal phase. They should apply all the time for a healthy individual. Gut health. We need to talk about gut health. 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. So if you do not have a happy gut, you will not have a happy life, and you need to ensure that you have got enough probiotics within your diet. Probiotics are essentially the way that we break down lots of different types of fiber that come from the fruits and veggies that we eat. If you find you get really bloated and uncomfortable if you eat a lot of fruit and veg, you probably don't have the right probiotics in your digestive tract, which is the healthy gut bacteria that will break those types of fiber down. So a probiotic supplement can be great, as well as eating lots of probiotic rich foods. So that could be yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, could be tempeh, miso. There's so many different sources, different types of cheeses as well that are rich in probiotics. So do not neglect probiotic supplements or probiotic rich foods. Even kombucha is a great, nice alternative. If you're craving something sweet, something which is fizzy, so it distends your stomach, makes you feel fuller for longer in a fat loss phase, but is rich in probiotics, win-win. That's a fantastic way of supplementing and also supporting you on your fat loss journey. We have to shift some of what we do a little bit though when it comes to the luteal phase, because you will be feeling super energized, stronger, just a badass when you're in your follicular phase. Some women during ovulation feel absolutely amazing, some women not so much. But regardless, that time you probably can get by without sleeping like a pro and without being optimal when it comes to recovery. During your luteal phase, you really need to optimize recovery. And we do this, as I've already spoken about, through nutrition, through hydration, but definitely through sleep. Sleep like it's your job. Avoid screens before bed for at least 1 hour, and definitely make sure during this time you're not missing out on the magnesium supplements before bed. Magnesium bisglycinate is a fantastic supplement, as I've already said, to ensure that you are getting good quality sleep, regulating your mood, aiding anxiety, helps with muscle contraction, just so many benefits, so many benefits. So definitely understand that because progesterone increases, we feel lower in energy, but we actually need during that time a little bit more recovery, a little bit more sleep. And you're also you're going to be less stress resilient because of the fact that your cortisol sensitivity increases. Therefore, it's your duty to ensure that you're not cranky, that you're not underslept. Sleep like a baby. Prioritize that as much as you can do. Honestly, something that people forget to talk about, and it's going to break so many of our hearts, is the sensitivity that we get from caffeine. Caffeine, obviously, as a stimulant, will increase our alertness. It can also increase cortisol because it is stimulating. And when we're in a stimulated state, we're in that kind of fight or flight mode, ready to go. But if you've put yourself into that state when you're already feeling tired, you'll be tired but wired. You'll struggle to sleep. You'll struggle to recover. And of course, when it comes to caffeine being a stimulant, it means that any pain that we're experiencing is exacerbated. So breast tenderness, cramps, if you're consuming a lot of caffeine, is going to feel much worse. Swap your coffees for decaf, or perhaps opt for a green tea, or even just more herbal teas during that time, which can certainly be soothing and comforting. If you're experiencing cramps and bloating, ginger teas, peppermint teas are fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So be mindful not to overconsume caffeine during your luteal phase. Let's not even have to spend much time talking about alcohol. It's a poison. We're not meant to put it into our bodies. It makes us feel the way that it makes us feel because it's poisonous. And it increases inflammation in the gut, in the body overall, bloating. Just don't consume alcohol, to be honest, in your luteal phase. Unless you want to feel absolutely terrible, I would just avoid consuming alcohol. Of course, I get it. We're balanced. We want to be able to have that flexibility, but just know you will suffer for a little bit more. So if you are going to consume alcohol, opt for spirits and diet mixers. Don't go for the wines and for beers, ciders, things that are high in sulfates, because they will make you feel worse. And certainly make sure that you are hydrating with electrolytes between every drink that you have, and set yourself a drinks quota. Get to bed on time as well. It's really just something where it's kind of like pouring gas on a fire. It's just not necessarily going to set you up for the best experience. So be mindful of that. And then supplements that actually help. We've spoken about magnesium already. B6 is great. It supports your mood, reduces PMS irritability. Zinc. It's an important one. It supports your immune system and hormone regulation. Vitamin D, of course, if you're deficient in vitamin D, it can literally make you depressed. So if you're living in a country where you don't get much daylight, or if you do get a lot of sunlight, but it's not you actually getting outside that, or you live in a sunny country but you don't get outside much, this is definitely something that needs to change, and you need to proactively get outdoors a little bit more. Adaptogens which help to balance our stress hormone levels, our cortisol, such as ashwagandha, rhodiola. These are great supplements. Ultimately a high quality multivitamin and mineral for women, along with ashwagandha and your omega-3 fatty acids and magnesium, is going to be fantastic. But as I said, keep listening and I'll tell you where you can find a breakdown of all of this so you can go away and implement it. I think it's really understated how much of going through this phase is what you perceive it to be. Everything changes through the lens of which you see it. You might be a woman listening to this that has really intense PMS symptoms. You might even wonder if you've got PMDD. If you're curious to find out about PMDD and what that is, then definitely check the PMS Survival Guide. But it's important to acknowledge that as you lose body fat and become healthier and fitter, you will notice, without a doubt, a huge increase in how much better you feel during your luteal phase. Your symptoms that are negative, like the cravings, the tiredness, the brain fog, will reduce massively. The cramps, the pain will reduce massively. There are so many women that I have worked with that have gone from being incapacitated, lying on the floor, rolling around in pain during their period, or just feeling so crazy when it comes to mood swings in the lead up to their period starting. They've gone from feeling completely erratic to actually, once they've implemented a healthy lifestyle and everything that I've mentioned here, the supplements, the nutrition, everything's changed for them. They've improved their hormonal health so much to the point that these symptoms are massively reduced. So one side of this very important coin is, of course, just getting fit and healthy. That's going to improve your symptoms anyway. Then the other side of the coin is how you see it. I just see that time in my luteal phase where I think, okay, I should probably just make sure I'm really doubling down on sleep and not staying up too late. Or, if I have that drink, I'm going to feel terrible. Or, oh, do I really need an extra cup of coffee? Oh, let me ask for decaf. Like, it's just little changes like that. And a lot of women will ask the questions of, do we need to change the way that we're exercising? Should I do yoga and Pilates only during my luteal phase, but not do resistance training? And that's just silly, because you can still do resistance training, but adapt your intensity depending on how you're feeling. Imagine if only for half the year you did resistance training. You're going to get half the progress, half the muscle maintenance or growth. Muscle is your body's engine. It's what drives your metabolism. If you want a high metabolism, so you can stay in shape and eat more food, you need a good amount of muscle tissue. But you're going to tell me you're not going to train for half the year for the 2 weeks of every single month where you're in your luteal phase because you think that it's the right thing to do, or someone on TikTok told you that. Whereas you could still go into the gym and you could still work out with weights and resistance, but just taper down the intensity. You don't have to keep pushing every single rep until you can't do any more. Maybe leave a couple of reps in the tank with each set that you do. You could choose a lighter weight. You can just tailor it depending on how you feel, but don't completely avoid resistance training during your luteal phase. There might be 2 or 3 days if you're in true agony where you just focus on light walks or maybe a bit of stretching, but that's 2 or 3 days. That's not half the year. That's 2 or 3 days, maybe within a month at most. There is no need to change your training. Make sure you train consistently in a way that gives you balance, both resistance, both cardiovascular activity, and maybe some lower intensity exercises if and when you truly believe that you need those. But it should be balanced, the same way that your nutrition should be balanced. And then remember, everything that you experience is how you see it. When you change the way you see things, the things that you see change. So start changing your perception of, okay, I know that physiologically during this time, my body is perhaps a little bit more tired, a little bit more sensitive. I'm just going to approach what I do with compassion, but more than anything else, I'm going to make sure I'm regimented and diligent with eating meals right, supplementing, staying hydrated, sleeping enough, and just making sure that I can do everything so that I don't feel worse during this time. And if you need more time alone, more time journaling, more time going to yoga classes, so be it. But get to know yourself and don't allow it to be your excuse, because it should not be your excuse. I've transformed 1,000 women by this point. None of them have got to the end of their journey not having transformed because they said that their menstrual cycle was an excuse. Even women with PCOS, endometriosis, adenomyosis, every single female health condition that you can think of, we have transformed because they've just done the work to work with their body, not against it. So I hope that this has helped. Lots of science in there, but lots of gold information that's going to change everything for you. And if you want this in practical application, how step by step should you make sure that you are doing everything to optimize improving how you feel during that PMS time, but staying on track also for a fat loss journey, then just click in the description box below. I have linked my ultimate PMS survival guide, and you can download that and it will tell you everything that you need to implement as a checklist step by step moving forwards. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. If you found that episode interesting, then you definitely need to go and listen to episode number 26 with Fran Brady, The Egg Freezing Dilemma. Are we securing our future or just buying hope? An important and eye-opening conversation that I know you'll love.